What is up, comic fam? Do not adjust your YouTube. You are at the right place at the right time. This is week's end. Mark is away at a wedding. He may join us eventually by the end. Hopefully, he will. But we want to make sure that there is a week's end for you every single week. So we are here. We have our guests, and we will join them right after you look at this. So, as I said, welcome to At Week's End, a spoiler-filled look at the last week. Before we get started, don't forget the like button, subscribe, hit the notification button. Want to thank our sponsor, Big Time Collectibles. Make sure you hit up Nelson for your collecting needs, whether it's variants or whether it's final order cutoffs. Big Time Collectibles, they do it all. And don't forget about Justin Comics, cleaning and pressing. I think right now they have a 2-for-1 deal if you use the code We Are Legion. So make sure you hit them up as well. Are going to go ahead and bring in our guest. As always, we have Ryan. How's it going, Ryan?
Pretty good. I'm here. I'm
Right.
excited to talk. So let's do it.
Absolutely. And joining us tonight is Brother John. What's going on, Brother John?
What's up, everybody? Brothers and sisters, I hope y'all are doing well. I am filling in for Mark. So be sure to check out my 1,500 subscriber video and see how you can get involved. I'm going to give away all sorts of great stuff. And we are Legion.
That's right. And that happens Wednesday, this coming Wednesday.
It's coming Wednesday.
At 9-ish or so. And then one other thing that we want to make sure that we mention to everyone too is coming up on the 21st of October. It's Comics Curing Cancer. So don't forget, there will be more information both on this channel, on Mark's Instagram. Make sure you follow that. Make sure you tune in for something. It's for a great cause. And again, everything we can do to basically say F you to cancer, that's what we're looking to do. So before we get started, let's take a look, see who is in the chat. As always, first and foremost, Lex Crucis. Hello from New Mexico. It's son of a Bruce, Chris from Retro Comics, the comic store up north. We got somebody that we all know. Digger Jim is there. How you doing, Jim? We have using all the emojis.
Throwing up those custom emojis.
We don't have Mark, but we have the man who sired Mark. So we have Pops. Thanks for joining us again tonight. We got E-Man. What it do, fam? You know this guy. What's good? What's good, chat? Shop for Comics. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate that. We got Mars Comics. Thank you for joining us as well tonight. We appreciate that. Wheelchair Superhero 87. Always appreciate when you show up as well. Got shop. Miss So, thank you for joining us. Let's see who else we got. You know this guy, Sup.
How's it going?
Trev the shipping guru is with us. We got Warlord is here with us as well.
Nice.
Hell Green Machine. Hello, my friends. Thank you very much. We got Ignacio Demeglio. Ignacio, thank you. Hello, everyone. We appreciate you. I wonder who this guy is. See? He's watching us. He's everywhere. You cannot get away from him. Even when he's not here, he is here.
I just picture him in the middle of some wedding reception on his phone.
Exactly.
Just throwing in some custom emojis and checking on us.
I got to be honest with you. If you watch his Instagram, right? He showed going to the wedding. He's in like a Dr. Fate T-shirt and he's wearing flip-flops. I never get invited to those weddings where I can wear flip-flops in a Dr. Fate shirt. Okay, I don't know how that happened.
Changed for the wedding. I mean, I don't think he changed flip-flops. I'm sure he's still in flip-flops no matter what, but he probably changed for the wedding.
You think? You think he went into like a purple pinstripe suit? Think he did? He did that?
God, I'd love to see that. I hope so.
He has said before that he wanted to do that, but his wife would never let him. Nash Hurd, thank you very much. Nash Head, we appreciate you being here.
Big Nosh. I'm 9'8" as well, my brother.
Yeah. Dr. Von Hoot and Comics from the Spiral Dimension. We appreciate you being here as well.
Wow. That's
see
a short name.
That is, exactly. It's gonna take up our whole business card. Chaos in Comics. You guys kicked Mark out, exactly. We're taking over.
The tribe has spoken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mark's wife here, he was totally stealing flip-flops. He didn't put on a button-up. Oh, okay. So, he was totally stealing flip-flops. All right. So we cleaned up a little bit, is what I think is. And yes, the pinstripe suit that Mark has worn before. So, there was a lot of stuff, it seems like, happened this week. And we're going to try to get to as much of it as it possibly can. Where do you guys want to start today? You want to start on TVs and movies? You want to start in comics? What do you feel like doing today?
Well, I mean, you know where I stand. I have no TV or movie news. There was a lot out of NYCC about comic books, though.
There was. Okay, so let's talk about that. And you actually did a lot of it on your channel. If you haven't, make sure you go on over to the Cosmic Campfire, check out Ryan. So one of the things I know that you talked about that I was really excited about and I hadn't heard was the Static and Batman Beyond crossover, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're gonna get a aged up Static in the Batman Beyond universe. That's pretty much all the details we have. They did show off some character sheets, but story-wise, we really don't know like who they're going to be fighting, if they're going to be on a Batman Beyond kind of mission, or if this is going to be a Static mission that Batman Beyond joins, or how all that's going to play out. But it's exciting news nonetheless, because those are, I grew up like on like Batman the Animated Series, and then the New Adventures of Batman, and ultimately, like, I really vividly remember that like early 2000s era when Static Shock and Batman Beyond were like the Warner Brothers properties, and so for me to like get those two characters crossing over again, like, I'm pretty excited for it, regardless of whatever story they decide to put behind it.
And
absolutely,
that design on the aged up Static is fire. I love that.
Yeah, I like that white.
Yeah, it looks
so like
so
prestigious looking.
Yeah, very cool.
Ignacio brings something. How about that Miranda Brothers teaser? Did you guys see that?
I haven't seen the teaser, but I did hear a little bit of the news.
Yeah, it was something. It was really well done. It just got me so pumped for what they have coming. So, you're absolutely right, Ignacio. I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, that's exciting news.
Yeah. So what else from New York Comic Con, Ryan?
I mean, I think like kind of the biggest headline in general was, they announced the next DC event, even though I feel like event is kind of overbilling it. I feel like it's more. Oh, okay. I did see their post of the Netflix logo. So yeah, okay. I know a little bit of what's happening there, but yeah. So they announced Lazarus Planet, and they're billing it as their first event of 2023. I feel like it's probably more of a bridge event, but either way, I'm excited for it because it's spinning out of a lot of books that I am currently reading.
Yeah, I'm interested. Just the designs alone that they showed got me really excited for it. It reminds me of when they would do different things like within the annuals, like each book's annual would be like an Elseworlds or a specific whatever theme they were, and that it's going to kind of be this through line in some of the different books is going to be pretty cool, it sounds like. I'm excited about that a lot.
Yeah, if you haven't read about it, basically what's happening in the story is the volcano on the Lazarus Island explodes, putting out all of this whatever into the atmosphere, and it causes all sorts of problems for people. And we see things like we see in some of the promotional materials, we see Batman wearing Dr. Fate's
the helm
Metal,
of Neb.
right? Which you made a good observation about when it comes to these fusion type characters, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a couple of these recently with, Swamp Thing fused with Green Lantern. We just this week got, I'm sure we're going to talk about Superman and Swamp Thing fusing. And then we also had Batman, Superman, and Green Lantern fuse. So the fusion character stuff is going to be really cool to see them kind of mix and match different characteristics and properties. What I like about, and then like they've mentioned some altered characters, so like we're gonna see like Electric Blue Superman and stuff like that. Martian Manhunter has a psychic link to like a Doomsday Hive, and then they're pretty vague in like how this is going to impact also regular people, because they say people around the globe are affected by this. So we might even see like completely new characters come out of just regular civilians that awaken. Mark had kind of compared it the other day to Marvel's Terrigen Mist, where it activated dormant DNA genes or something. So we could see a lot of like interesting and altered characters. Ultimately, what I really have liked about some of these fusion things they've done and mix and match characters is that they kind of like exploit and expose different weaknesses about the characters that are combined, because that's kind of what you have to land on to fight something that fuses. And now it's the strongest of these two things, so you have to really hone in on what that weakness is. And so I always enjoy them kind of exploring the character through like what is their biggest weakness, their biggest flaw between the two of them.
Right. And to your point, it reminds me of two things. The fusion characters reminds me of the Amalgam universe, but only just within DC, obviously. Um, and then to the normal humans, if you remember back, I want to say in like the late 80s or early 90s, you mentioned the annuals. They did a whole Bloodlines annuals,
Sure.
which basically created all of these new characters. Really, the only one that did anything or that went anywhere was Hitman. But it created all of these. It activated a gene or whatever, and it like created all these new superheroes, which was the goal of the Bloodlines annuals. So,
Are you saying so? You're saying your run of Gunfire isn't probably going to be? I shouldn't be holding on to those, huh? You don't think that's going to
hey Chris, and
from the
Taylor also Taylor
bloodlines?
Winder. We're substitutes, but we're the good substitutes, like in school. We're the
Yeah,
substitutes that let you do whatever you want.
you
All
can do
right.
So
good stuff.
Movie day.
exactly.
I'll be
The season sound a
interested to
lot like
see with this being tied to the Lazarus, the volcano and all of that. If we'll see any characters coming back from the dead type of thing. Uh,
Oh yeah.
if that would be any kind of effect that might be played in,
Mhm.
or if they, you know, just how some of these fusion things, how they work. I'm just interested to see with some of the matchups they put together. It'll be exciting.
Yeah. I'm also really excited because Mark Waid's run of Batman Superman, that first arc, it was Neza was the big bad on that. And
Mhm.
then he's orchestrating what's going on with Batman versus Robin right now. And then everything points to him kind of being like the big bad that they're going to have to deal with in this Lazarus planet, which I think also ties into some bigger stuff. But what's cool is he comes from Chinese lore, and so does the Monkey Prince.
Yeah,
And that's a
Mhm.
book that I've been following pretty closely. And Monkey Prince is right there front and center in the announcement piece. So it definitely seems like he's going to come into the DC universe proper and play a big part in this event. So I'm pretty excited to see those two characters finally clash.
Yeah, and it seems like again, it could obviously plans could change and they could expand it, but it seems as though they're kind of keeping it to I want to say 7 or 8 issues, really kind of standalone issues that aren't
Yeah,
going to be
it's
in any
just like
and it
7 straight issues.
yeah, right weekly. They're
Yeah.
supposed to be weekly.
Yeah, it's seven
Um,
weeks, and like each one is kind of like themed around something. So, like the third book, I think, or the second one is called Assault on Krypton, and it's going to deal specifically with the super family and Kryptonians in this whole event thing, So, each week is kind of like around a certain theme or something. So, that's going to be
right.
kind of cool too.
Yeah. And and then we'll see where it goes from there. But it basically is supposed to run through the entire month of January and then into the very beginning of February, I believe. So we should get much more info about each of the issues when they release their January solicitations, which should be, I think, probably this coming Friday. I believe they do them.
Hmm.
So, um, so again, we should find out relatively soon. So the other
Yeah.
big news. Let's see. Its release format is like Endless Winter was. Yep, absolutely. Yep. The other big news had to do with the Superman family itself, and what's going to be happening in the Superman family of comics. Basically, Superman, Son of Kal-El, is going to end with issue 18, and beginning with Action Comics number 1051 after the big anniversary issue. Um, Action Comics is going to become more like an anthology comic that's going to star different members of the Superman family. There's going to be a new Superman number 1, which is going to be written by Joshua Williamson. And then there's going to be a miniseries with called The Adventures of Superman with Jonathan Kent. That'll be written still by Tom Taylor, and that's supposed to run, I think, 6 issues as well. So we're getting more Superman family stuff in the long run, which to me, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Having Joshua Williamson, and it looks like as though Superman will be back in his regular costume. It looks as though anything that's going to happen with the Blue Superman, which is Jonathan Kent, may be resolved because he's going to be coming back to a more regular costume, but it's going to have kind of a jacket, like a leather jacket, the type thing, but not like the old um,
Connor Kent.
Connor Kent
Yeah,
when he first
Connor.
came on. Yeah. And Supergirl's going to have the same kind of thing as well. And then they showed 2 new characters. Well, they're not really new characters, we don't think. I think they're the 2 children from the Warworld saga
Hmm.
that are that are brandishing the L symbol as well. So all that to me just kind of opens up all sorts of different story possibilities. But I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, I'm pretty excited for it because, like there were some disappointments there. Like I really like the direction that Philip Kennedy Johnson has taken action. I've really been enjoying Son of Kal-El, and so like honestly, like I'm a little disappointed that book's ending and that Action Comics is going to change format and stuff. But creative team wise and idea wise, I think we are getting a really good remix. So right now I feel a little disappointed. Once it happens, I'm sure I'm going to be excited and just like change is weird, But what I think is really interesting is, and maybe I've just missed a lot of announcements, but there's a lot of Batman stuff in the works, but Batman has been market oversaturated for like 2 years now, and even people are finally
No.
starting to catch on to it. And we haven't heard a lot of Batman new announcements out of this whole NYCC thing, but we heard like a ton of Superman stuff moving forward. So my big hope is that they're going to pull back on Batman a little bit in 2023 and really push the Super family and kind of make them like the brand name for at least a year here, hopefully. Fingers
Right.
crossed.
And Philip Kennedy Johnson is still going to be one of the driving forces in Action Comics. He's still going to
Hmm.
be writing. So I don't think I can't picture that they're not going to have Clark in Action Comics at all. But it just mentioned that there's going to be like 3 stories, and they're going to kind of
Yeah,
try to put spotlights on the Superman family. So, and I
yeah,
agree. I think there was someone who said, maybe it was even last week, that there were basically only 4 ongoing series that were not Batman related
yeah,
currently in the DC universe.
yeah. I believe
Um,
it too.
mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. From what I understand on the Action Comics, it's still gonna like Clark is still gonna like be there, but he's just gonna be one of many characters. It's gonna focus on 3 storylines. So you're gonna have like the Super Family, probably stuff with the twins, and then probably like the other Philosians and the people that have come back from Warworld and integrating them into the Super Family and Super Society and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Taylor, excellent point. The real big news is DC Unlimited Ultra. $99 for a year, and you get all the new releases the month after they come out in print. So
That's
yeah,
huge.
only a 30-day window is unheard of, and in these, unless you pay, obviously you can get them day of if you want to pay the same amount, but to have this, and they're expanding to include Vertigo and Black Label and lots of other things as well. So they're expanding their library. And if you sign up, either renew or buy a new thing, I think it's by like November 21st. They're also
28th.
going to be sending out. They're going to be sending out hard copies of comic books as well. And the first one is a special edition of Superman number 75 with a cover by Ivan Rice. So you can get, supposedly you can sign up for that starting tomorrow.
Yeah, startup starts Monday the 10th, so tomorrow. The cutoff date for that $99, well, it's really $100, but the cutoff for that is November 28th.
Okay.
And then after November 28th, it looks like it goes up to $120. So like you'll still be able to get in. You'll still get the physical book, from what I understand. The only thing that changes is the price. They're trying to front load everybody and get that discount. And if you sign up in that window, every year that you renew, as long as you don't let it lapse, you stay at the $100 price point. You don't go up to that $120. So, and they even reference sending out books annually. So it sounds like every year when you renew, because they even put a window on it. It's like 30 to 45 days after you renew, they'll ship out your book, and that's an annual thing. So every year they're supposed to have a book that they send out as long as you stay subscribed.
That's
right,
cool.
which is supposed to be unique just to the DC Unlimited Ultra folks as well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And then, like you mentioned, you also get access to an exclusive tier of books like Vertigo and all that stuff. And then you get the 30-day window on new releases after they hit the shelves. So that's interesting. I wish it was a little bit better on that digital release side, but everything else in there, like that book, that Ivan Reis cover, like, holy cow, that's fire. That's worth the $100 alone.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody out there or whatever has ever uses Oculus or anything like that, but I got one for Christmas, and I use it to use DC Unlimited. You can basically use it. I can look at comic pages that look like they're as tall as buildings. It's amazing.
That's wild. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah.
You have a browser, and you can go to the browser, and then you can kind of do it, and it is so amazing. So try it if you ever end up on Oculus or anything like that.
Yeah. Wow.
It really is.
Yeah, I read mine on my laptop. It's 16 by 9, so like widescreen format. Yep. But it's touchscreen enabled, and it folds over like a tablet, and so it's like basically like a 14-inch tablet, 15-inch tablet. And so whenever I read digitally, like turn sideways on there, like it's just like huge pages and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. They don't even print books this big.
Thanks, Flo.
Right. You get to like walk around with the power ring and your Oculus. That'd be amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing. And I just think of these comics and they just appear. It's like I don't have to do anything. On the Marvel side, they didn't really announce a lot of things, but they did announce some series that are coming up. Like I know they announced Dark Web, which I know had been announced kind of with the last solicitations. But then the one that they put out, which is the furthest out for next summer, is called The Fall of X, which is the premise is basically, Krakoa is supposed to be eternal. We'll find out, is it really, basically. So that's kind of the premise behind The Fall of X. But they didn't really have a lot of announcements on the comic side, on the Marvel side, at least for what I could find.
I didn't hear much. I mostly just saw that timeline, and I will say, like, a lot of the logos they had were pretty sick. Like the Dark Web one or whatever, like that's a pretty clean logo there. The Fall of X one was really cool. So they had cool logos. I heard a little bit about the stories, but
right. What's weird is DC didn't have a booth with bigger announcements around books. That's right. And Mr. Dameron was there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything about Marvel announcements other than what we just mentioned, but yeah, on the DC side, it was really more like milestone stuff that I heard about, at least. There was a little bit about the Batman and the Joker, the duo or whatever, the Mark Silvestri thing. Joe Quesada's coming back to do some covers, starting with Batman 131, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Icon and Hardware about to go at it starting February the 14th. Have a video about that dropping on Tuesday.
Nice.
A couple of other things around Static. The Milestone 30th anniversary is that's going to be like a one-shot anthology piece, and that's going to include that story of Static and Batman Beyond. So that's going to be really cool. And the slightest of teases, they told us that the Dakotaverse, so Milestone stuff, is going to come into contention with the DC Universe this year as well. So we don't know what that means in whole, but it's going to be interesting to see them fight it out again. What was it? Worlds Collide? Is that what it was called last time?
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess we're going to follow up to that.
Yeah, I did not hear that Quesada was going to be doing some DC covers though. That's huge. It proves you can go home again. I remember when he and Denny O'Neil created Azrael. I remember when they did that. When they were on that.
Yeah, I love his DC work, so I'm excited to see him come back.
Yeah.
I have like when he did the Ray with Christopher Priest. It was just a huge part of that book, though, was I can't remember his name now, but the colorist that was on there just made that book so beautiful just to look at. Even the interior pages on the cheaper paper were just gorgeous and really worked well with Quesada's art. I'm excited to see him doing something. But I saw that he went. Flo says he got COVID. I did see him on his own feed. He had something about that he went one day and then he started feeling bad and he didn't go back. But he left a bunch of like sketches or prints on his table of Batman that he had done.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, and they also announced Amanda Waller versus Wildstorm. So they're kind of taking it as it's being sort of billed as like a Amanda Waller year one.
Yeah.
It takes place right after the Cold War, and it's going to be Amanda Waller against the Wildstorm universe, and it's supposed to kind of define her early years in everything, as well as kind of give some more definition to the Wildstorm characters.
So many great people. Yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping to get there one year.
Yeah.
Right. It's a long haul.
Yeah. These weren't announced. One of them isn't really an announcement, but one of them was. We never got a chance to talk about this last week, Ryan, but we did a little bit afterwards. Was the Hugh Jackman announcement that he's going to be back as Wolverine in Deadpool 3. So we never got a chance to talk about that. What are you guys? Are you guys excited about that? Is he too old to be Wolverine now? Is he going to be Old Man Logan again, or what do you think?
I'm excited about it just from the perspective of, it's just kind of a neat little fan service thing, but I hope it's not much. I honestly would be great if he just showed up for like a couple of minutes and then Deadpool killed him or something. I think that would be
they just kind of
amazing.
They can
He'd
go
always
and do
come
that.
back,
They can do the cover of
right.
They can
exactly.
do the cover of Wolverine '88, and they'll be all set.
And then just move on.
I mean, I'm kind of in the air about wait and see. We haven't seen Deadpool in the MCU. I honestly don't believe they're going to pull it off. And on top of that, we've seen how hollow and empty all their fan service has become. So like, it's not really that amazing. Like, it can be as throwaway as John Krasinski is Mr. Incredible, or Mr. Fantastic.
Right.
Like those things are so hollow and meaningless. Everybody thinks they want it, and then they see it, and then they're like, whatever. So I kind of expect this to be kind of the same thing, like, or Quicksilver, appearing in WandaVision. Like, who cares at this point? They just like fan service to fan service, and it really doesn't carry much weight. And I kind of expect that to be what this is like Deadpool opens some multiverse thing, and Hugh Jackman steps out as Wolverine, and everybody loses their mind, and then 6 months later, nobody's even talking about it anymore because it was so hollow.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's all of those types of things, whenever they do things like that, they have to be careful how they do them, because if they do them wrong, it can bring down the whole movie in a lot of ways. Um, but if they do them right, it can prop up a lot of things that may not be going right in the movie too. So,
Yeah.
um, so I'm pumped to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, but I'm baffled that Disney roll out of the mutants. I'm is this still Mark's wife? I don't know. I'm not sure anymore.
Boy,
I'm
she
pretty
really
sure.
on it then.
I'm pretty sure this is actually Mark now. Um,
Feels like it.
I'm baffled now.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I totally agree. It's the whole thing. I was kind of surprised that, I mean, maybe that's just what they did with Ryan Reynolds, but I was kind of surprised how they announced it. That they let the two of them do kind of a, you know, maybe it's breaking that third wall type of a thing, or whatever, fourth wall. So, um, hey, Paul, glad to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Ryan for Hater of the Year for 2022.
Oh, I'll
No, no,
take it.
no.
I'll
Nothing
sweep
but
it.
love here. But yeah, I think I mean, the rollout of the mutants, how they're going to handle X-Men, how they're going to handle Fantastic Four. I think they had some opportunities both at D23, at San Diego Comic Con, at D23, maybe even at New York Comic Con. They could have done something, to at least say, hey, you know what, this is our plan for them. Um, but they've gone radio silent on all of that, and to me that to me is the baffling part, is that they've just gone radio silent on some of the biggest properties that they now have. Other than they put it on the screen that they're coming out with this movie, you know, sometime in the future. But that was basically all it was.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I guess like to stay on the hate train. I don't know if you saw like the article that came out about what's it called? Mm, the vampire guy from Marvel,
Yep.
Blade.
uh, Blade. The Blade
Oh,
movie
Blade.
is
Yeah.
apparently kind of suffering through some tough times, and one of the more resonating comments that I saw in that article was that Kevin Feige is spread too thin. So that's kind of the impression I'm getting from a lot of stuff, is like his strict control over things, much like Steve Jobs with Apple. Whenever he was like in control of everything to a very certain extent, like it was all like working well. But I feel like lately a lot of the MCU stuff we've seen is kind of like lackluster and kind of sprawling, and I can't imagine that he has nearly the level of focus on it all as he once did. And so I definitely think we're seeing more and more of that, where it's like him taking his control away gives more people the opportunity to do their own thing, but it also makes it feel less cohesive. And then we're like, I don't really understand what they're doing with the mutants, because I don't think they do either sometimes.
Right. Taylor makes a good point. I didn't know this, but he said part of Disney's weird mutant rollout is that the old X-Men actors are still under contract through 2025, so they can't start fresh until after that. Did not realize that, but that would explain a lot.
I think the
Um,
big thing, is like the opening up of the multiverse, because they've got to play that in somehow, because otherwise it's going to be, if you like, the only other option they have is to kind of just roll things in like, oh, mutants have been around all along, we just haven't been talking about it. But you can't do that because you've already established this huge history. So it's like, well, what happened during the snap to those people, and those characters and so forth. So like the only way I see it happening is that they have to do it through the multiverse and fold those characters in somehow. Um,
mhm.
and how they do that, like I said, I don't know how they do that and remain any kind of cohesion to what they've built already. It'll be interesting to see. But they're kind of already hinting at, well, like, they said that Miss Marvel's a mutant, and they're saying that, Namor is still going to be a mutant. Uh, so it's like, all right, so how is this going to play into the bigger picture?
Well, anyway, bringing Ryan's regards from um, Tom King. Hey, Brian, thanks for joining us. We appreciate that. Um, I would like the werewolf by night approach. Keep it focused to the story that you're telling. Um, what am I
We're gonna get to Werewolf by Night, because that was freaking amazing. So
Yeah.
we will get around to that for sure.
Is that
Yep.
out?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it's
Um,
out.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Came out
Cool.
on Friday. Yep. There were two things that I had mentioned. The first one was the Hugh Jackman Wolverine one. The second one, this wasn't an announcement, obviously, but there was a report that Mr. Henry Cavill is back in as Superman.
Hmm.
And the reason he is back in as Superman is because Dwayne The Rock Johnson demanded that he both appear in the Black Adam movie and he get a sequel to his Man of Steel movie as part of his deal to do Black Adam. Um, those are just rumors, but how do we feel about Henry Cavill coming back as Superman?
I think he's great as Superman, but I could care less.
Man,
him showing up in the Black Adam movie, I don't care. It's not the draw for me to the movie. Uh, a sequel to Man of Steel, I don't. I did not care for Man of Steel, so I don't think I need a second part. But okay, I'm sure there's an audience out there. But I think he's very good as Superman, and I'm fine with that. If him sticking around, he can get a deal on it and be happy about it. That's great.
man, pretty much ditto on all of that. Yeah, my thing with Cavill is like I think he plays a better Superman than the material that's been written for him so far.
Mhm.
I would like to see like somebody really step up in the writing department on a Superman character, and I think he would really just blow people away.
Yeah, I think he just, as good as I did like some of the movies that Zack Snyder did, I just don't think the direction he went with Superman was just not the right direction. You know, to me, Superman would have found a way not to have to kill General Zod because he doesn't kill people. Um, so,
Yeah,
um, you know, what
Yeah,
kind of
like I
Superman
said,
am
I
I, in my
think he's
opinion?
great.
Yeah,
I'm not a big. I think Snyder's movies are beautiful to look at and they're exciting. Uh, I just don't think he gets a lot of the characters,
yeah,
and
yep.
and
yeah,
his versions of
Aggressive.
them were great for some people. Just they don't work for me. So seeing more of them, I'd like to see if I'm going to see more Cavill as Superman or Affleck as Batman. I'd like to see somebody else see what their take is.
Mhm. Aggressively relaxing. Going back to the Deadpool Wolverine and the X-Men. I think that it's all heading towards Hickman's Secret Wars, told with the complexity of Spider-Man the animated series Secret Wars. Just have fun with the multiverse and reboot. And Pop says Marvel could easily roll out a different X team like X-Force, Excalibur, etc. Just give a nod that the X-Men already exist. Um, um, so, dude, that shit was wild. That family had so many places to run.
right.
Cover his damn eyes. Yeah. Um, yeah. And that's the thing is, again, I think for what he was, to your point, Ryan, to what he was given to do, I thought he did a really good job. I just don't necessarily think that he was given always the right things to do. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and the one thing that I could see being a saving grace for Man of Steel if they did a sequel is to kind of, and even then it's really hard. But the thing is, like Superman always looks for a better way, right? If they could do Man of Steel 2 and really reflect back on that time in his life as being young and inexperienced and very emotional and things like that, they might could like save the whole thing with a really, really, really good Man of Steel 2. But at the end of the day, yeah, like I just feel like Man of Steel was kind of a rough jump, and I think they got too caught up in like trying to create something bigger than what they really needed at the time.
yeah, and the difference I think between both you two and me is that if I see Henry Cavill in Black Adam, there will be a report of an old man who lost control of his entire bowels in the movie theater because I will just all of my bodily functions will give way
Lose your.
if I see Henry Cavill in Black Adam. I promise you that.
Yes.
Um, so DC, you need to work the multiverse, not rebooting it. Every DC character needs to be right. Yeah, that was yeah. Little, little known fact is Bruce Wayne also had a dog named Crypto that could have worked as well. Um,
Um,
um, so let's
Oh,
let's talk
there
about
are
you.
like,
It was brought up. Let's go to the Marvel stuff on Disney Plus. Let's start
oh
with
yeah, yeah.
what I think was the best one of the week, and that would be the Werewolf by Night. So
yeah, not just best of the week. It's the best they. I feel like it's the best they've put out on Disney Plus. It's the best
yeah,
thing. It for me I was like, when I initially saw it was coming out, I was like, this is only an hour, and that doesn't, why is this not a series? Why is this not a full movie? What's going on? And this script on this thing is so tight and done so well. You don't need any more than the hour. Um, I don't think it's just really, really well done. It's written so well, and it doesn't bog you down in any needless fluff. You jump right in, and it's like they don't even go, it's just like, who are all these characters? You don't need to know who all these people are. You just need to know what purpose they serve and why they're here. And then the story just takes off. And it, like I said, the black and white serves it so well.
yeah.
Uh, it's just really well done. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm looking forward to watching it again.
And Panda, thanks for joining us. He agrees with you as well. Chop and Drop is here. Pops best by far. Guys, here's a tip: if you have an Apple TV, hook up your AirPods. Okay. Taylor, just a tip. Okay. Um, yeah, same thing. I don't know. I don't know a lot. I know barely anything about the Marvel horror lines.
Right.
Um, but I so enjoyed this show, this special. It was, um, I was kind of, I thought we would only get a brief shot of Man Thing because of what was in the trailer, but that was designed. Now I know it was designed that way because we got Man Thing, full on, full body, running around, doing whatever he needed to do. He was an important part of the overall story arc as well. So, um,
And I think
um,
if even
okay,
like the way they did it was like just like I said, they give you just enough information for the story that you're watching to make sense, but also enough information for somebody that's not even a comic person to go, like, if they enjoyed it, they could go, all right, now I've got to Google this Elsa Bloodstone and see what this is about. Or, they never once say Man Thing. I don't recall. They call him
right,
Ted.
right.
So that might even be like, what is this Ted? Who is this Ted? We better find out more. I want to find out more. So that might pull people towards the books and other stuff. So that was really smart the way they did that. Um, so like I said, I just enjoyed it a lot. The fact that it was I think it was the writer, kind of the head writer from Moon Knight, and then the story and teleplay were put together by a lady, Heather Quinn, that was staff writer on Hawkeye, but hadn't done a whole lot of other stuff. It's just, like I said, it's just a really tight script, really well done, and the thing just, the hour flies by. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, and I've talked to some people, and a lot of have Mark says Werewolf by Night best hour of Disney in the past 5 years. It's kind of I think it
I wouldn't argue.
says does it say something about the fact that people who have that opinion, it's something that is kind of on the fringes of Marvel's publishing, right? It's not any of their main publishing, but the fringes of their publishing is getting some of the best reviews that they've had in a long time.
Yeah. But it's also standalone. I mean,
Right.
there's nothing in there that ties it to anything else where you're going, you don't have that. You go, well, wonder what happened to the werewolf guy when Thanos snapped, or anything like that, because you don't care. It doesn't play towards that in any way. It doesn't have any little, nods or anything that make you think about that. It gets to stand on its own and be its own thing.
Yeah.
And so I do think that kind of serves it, uh, gives it a little boost to being able to be a little cleaner and more enjoyable, just because it's not bogged down by any other stuff.
Well, and granted, I just I just found out that this is even out, so definitely haven't seen it. Um, but my perspective, right? So I did listen to an interview with the director. He was on a podcast, Comic Book Couples Counseling, I think. And one thing that he talked about was essentially like Marvel and Kevin Feige wanted to work with him, and so it became a question of like, hey, if we brought you on into Marvel, like, what would you be interested in doing? Like, what project would you like? What IP would you like to work with? And he was like, man, I grew up on Werewolf by Night. And Kevin Feige's response was literally like, we have not even thought about touching that. Like, we have zero ideas for that. And so, this was one of the few times that a director in the last couple of years, at least, that a director or a creator has come into the MCU stuff with something they didn't already have plans for down the road, or they didn't have any kind of plans to like tie this character in somewhere, or it needs to be a character that represents this. And so it sounds like that's a big part of kind of what you're referencing there, is that like they weren't worried about like how it connects to everything else, because they had literally not even thought about any of it or doing it or whatever. And so he sat down and created a script, and he was like, I want to do it like, like as an old school special, not like a mini series or a full blown movie in the cinema. Like, I wanted to have a cinema viewing experience, of course, but at the same time, like, I want to do like one of those specials. And so that's where they came up with like that 1 hour format. Is they basically wrote a tight script that he came up with, because that's what they wanted to do with it, is like create this tight story. And
Right.
so I think that's where they came up with that hour format and why it worked so well.
Well, it's the only the third thing he's directed.
Mm.
So he's done a short, and then he did like these short treks, the Star Trek kind of short treks things. He's a music composer. He's won awards. Yeah, I think he even has an Oscar for composing. But he wanted to move into directing, and he'd done some producing with putting movies together. And he wanted to move into directing, and Feige gave him a shot and was like, "Sure, let's do it. What are you interested in?" And then he was like,
Yeah, and
"Werewolf by Night," and they were like, "What?"
and
Okay.
cinematically is just amazing. The black and white really worked. Because it calls back to the Universal, monsters and things like that. Except for the Bloodstone itself had the color, so that really worked because
Right.
it called out to
Yeah.
the Bloodstone. But to me, the scene of the entire movie, I loved everything with Man Thing and everything, but to me, the scene of the entire movie was the transformation into the werewolf, where
Yeah.
you didn't see it. You saw Elsa Bloodstone, and then you saw the change, the transformation in a shadow by the
Right.
lightning that comes in through the window.
Right.
And you see the transformation on the wall from the shadow. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
As soon as I watched that, I rewinded it and I watched it again, because it was like,
Which
that is really cool.
we've we've that's been done before. I mean, that's a cinematic kind of
Yeah.
piece or usage that
Yep.
they've done in horror movies before. But what I had never seen was that done with her, like where they had her placed, where we got to see her reaction
Right.
to what she was seeing while we were seeing that behind on
Right.
the wall. And I did the same thing. I watched it twice. She sold, I just kept hitting that 10 seconds back, 10 seconds back, and watching, because she sold it so well that, you think what you're seeing in the shadows back there is wild. You can't believe what I'm actually seeing. It was really, like I said, really just all around done really well.
Yeah. Nash hopes that if the Superman's in another movie, it's not all goofy shit. Um, so I'll correct hater of the year. Blade actually is only happening because they approached Master Shir Ali, and that's what he wanted to do. All practical effects. I qualified all my statements. Now you're taking my award for you. You have enough. You have no competition. You don't watch enough YouTube then. So yeah. So I think I think at least everyone here, and I think everyone in the chat seems to agree that I'm going to watch it again at least once or twice more before Halloween. I can guarantee you that. Um, it is just that good.
Where would you
Um,
rate this? Not like
I
quality wise, but like for kids and adults and like all that.
I mean, my 8-year-old wouldn't watch it.
No.
No, I mean, it would be too much that would freak him out. But I would think, uh, and I'm not saying this in any way. I think I think Mark's son would probably dig it. There's nothing in there that's that harsh. Uh, his son, I think, is around the same age, maybe a little bit younger than mine, but he just has seen more stuff, and yeah, and is just more kind of desensitized to some of the things that my
Yeah.
son like blows up in his head and makes bigger than they necessarily need to be. So I don't know. It's it's an individual basis thing on in terms of kids, but I think anybody, teenage and older, even that, especially this is a great thing even if they're a non-comic book person, even if they just like just good, spooky stuff. It's not
yeah.
horror, it's not scary, it's just kind of
Yeah.
spooky fun. So
Cool.
better
Funny
than
too.
Hocus Pocus
Boy, you
2.
literally both on Turner Chuck E. Cheese. That I was laughing. It was really kind of funny the way they did that in the whole, and you could hear like the organ kind of grinding,
Mhm.
the organ grinder when they did it and everything. It was it really was like a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic. Um, okay, so that's Werewolf by Night. What else do we have on Disney Plus? We had the next episode of She-Hulk.
I was
Yep.
gonna say. I assume there's another She-Hulk.
Yep.
There's only
The
one more
second to the
left
last. There's one
after
more
this one.
left. Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was fun. I don't take it very seriously. It's just a little, you know, I literally, it's not like I sit down and watch it. Like I was literally working. I was doing work and just had it on and on the other monitor and was just watching and glancing. And it's just, I mean, you just can't take it very seriously. But I thought it was a lot of fun. I like the exploration they've been doing through this whole thing of how Jen kind of feels like she's losing herself, and kind of finding out or feeling like, she's nothing special. And now she is suddenly, but it's not because of who she is. It's because of She-Hulk. And that's you know, I can't imagine that's probably an easy thing to deal with. And it kind of sends people in some weird paths and poor decisions and things like that. And I think they've handled it well. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I liked some parts of this episode as well. I liked the part with Daredevil when Daredevil was in it. I thought it was really good, which is I don't know how much that's saying that they thought one of the best parts of a She-Hulk episode was a different character, but was a different hero. Um, but I like the whole and I like the whole leapfrog thing with
Yeah.
the court battle and everything. It explains how Matt Murdock ends up where he is. But it also then everything that went on with the tailor and everything. To me it was it was amusing. I enjoyed it. It definitely was not um, the the worst episode. I thought the worst episode was the previous episode where they did the whole uh, counseling thing. I didn't really enjoy that at all.
Oh, I thought
But
that was fun too. I thought that was
oh,
just goofy fun. I
yeah,
mean, like I said, it wasn't the strongest of the series for sure, but I thought that was goofy fun. Um,
She-Hulk is helping everyone. Daredevil was fine, but She-Hulk is helping everyone.
but I don't know why that is such a big deal. It's okay for women to like sex, man.
Yeah.
It's all right. We want that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the big thing at the end
It was only legal
was
for like 100 years, and now it's not okay.
Right.
right. The big thing at the end, leading into the finale, was the whole intelligentsia exposing She-Hulk and everything, and basically putting her entire life up on those screens, just to try to kind of shame her, and we'll see where it leads. because we ended the episode with She-Hulk smashing all of the TVs that were there and then busting through the wall, and suddenly she has like 8 rifles
Pointed at her.
pointed at her with the red
Yeah.
lasers, and that's kind of where we left the.
And we had a lot of tie-ins on this. They mentioned the Sokovia Accords. They uh, you know made all of these different references that are pulling things in, that this is officially part of the bigger picture. So it'll be interested to see. Look at Mark. Mark is a prude.
Anybody watching Andor?
Oh man. Mhm.
What do you think of Andor?
I don't have I like Star Wars stuff. I've been watched it all my life and been into it all life, but I've never had a big kind of tie to it. So that's like when Obi-Wan came out, there were a lot of things in that didn't really work, but it didn't bother me. I could let it go because I'm not that tied to it. When Book of Boba Fett turned out to be so boring, I just stopped watching it, you know. And I'm kind of almost at that point with Endor. Uh, I don't know. You know how they can describe some things and say, "Oh, that story is a slow burn." You
Yeah.
know, it, they don't have any burn. Andor is
slow.
just all slow. It just doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. So it's usually when I get to watch it, it's the last thing. I've exhausted everything else because it's just not pulling me along very well.
I'm a big Star Wars guy too, but to me the best thing that has happened so far in the 5 episodes that we've seen is, I don't know if anybody noticed it, but in episode 4, when they're in the um, antiquities shop and they go into the back room, there is um, Indiana Jones' whip is frozen in carbonite.
So an Easter egg is
I
the best
definitely
part of the
don't
whole
pay
thing.
attention to. I definitely don't pay attention to that show well enough to even notice that kind of thing. You want to drop in an Easter egg like that, you've got to make the show more watchable.
Hmm. Yeah. Again, to me that was it was good. It's actually already it's going to go 2 seasons, and it's going to be at least 16 episodes total, I think,
Oh
if not
wow!
more. So there's a long way to go. I mean, they're setting up this big heist that they're going to do. They're going to steal the payroll of the um, divisional um, security or whatever. So they're working on that. We still don't know why um, the guy who runs the antiquity shop, why he had a kyber crystal. We don't know that. He gave it to Cassian Andor. Um, so there's that. Trying to think of what else is basically going on, and just the heist. I think we don't know who the girl is, the leader of the group that's going to do the heist either. We don't really have too much backstory on her either, but um, there are some things that they still have to explore. But yeah, it is definitely one of the slower. There's a lot of story decompressions going on in that. And maybe it's because they've committed to so many episodes already. So,
Yeah,
all right, how about Stargirl?
Stargirl was great. That show is just running so well, and this season has been a lot of fun. This episode, to me in particular, was if you haven't been watching this season of Stargirl, you could jump in on this episode and get caught up. They did a great job of kind of weaving in all the different threads from the different characters that we've like somebody who's watched it from the beginning of the season. I'm like, yeah, I know all this. I know this. I know this. But they weaved it all together and shows how it all connects. Even things down to like with some of the characters' parents and their
Hmm.
relationship with them and how this is all affecting them. It's just been really enjoyable. I'm excited to see. Um, you can look at it as that they're dragging out this murder story plot with who killed uh, the gambler. But I don't know. I kind of like the way they're doing it. This is the kind of that opposite. There is some burn to the slow burn. They're feeding you just enough to make you think, oh, I know what happened, but you really don't. It could go a totally different direction. Um, Not a huge fan of the. It feels a little cliche with the kind of teenage love story of the Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, two families that are opposing families, but I'm sure they'll do a good job with it. I like it. Yeah, Mark's absolutely right. The character development has just
Name
been
drops. The major
fantastic.
WTF moment was Sylvester. Such a great show. Yeah,
Yeah.
name drops. Anybody notice the Young All Stars? Name
Yep.
drop of the
Young All
Young All Stars.
Stars. Yeah. And what's her name? The gimmick girl, Sylvester's sister or half sister. Yeah, they had a lot of name drops. Like I mentioned to Paul before, this episode was directed by Leah Thompson, Marty McFly's mom. And this is her fourth episode that she's directed. She did a great job. Some of this stuff, like just visually, is just fantastic.
Yeah, and they moved. I mean, although there really wasn't a lot that happened. They did have some um, pretty important things, or things that could be really important. Like, has our man now found a way to give himself powers almost infinitely?
Right.
By taking out the limiter out of the hourglass. Um, what's going to happen between Courtney and the icicles? Kid. What's going to happen there?
Yeah, that
Um,
like I said, that doesn't interest me. That whole thing that seems a little cliche, but I think they'll do a good job with taking it
yep,
in a decent enough
yep.
direction.
The whole thing that and I bring this up every time we talk about it. Something is going on with Sylvester. You know, the way that he loses his temper and just goes batshit at people.
Yeah.
Something's got to be going on with him. He's either possessed or maybe it's residue from when the staff brought him back to healed him or whatever it happens to be. I don't know, but there's something going on there. Rick is moving towards the end of the
Yeah,
story.
I mean,
That's
he might be. That's true. They had Rex always had that kind of background story, that addiction to the
yep,
Miraclo and uh, the kind of adrenaline rush of it, and he wanted it more and more. And he was always trying to find a way to get past that hour, longer than that hour.
thanks for stopping
So,
by, Nash. We appreciate you. Yeah, and then they managed to Wildcat found the computer, found Gayla's computer in the girl's bedroom. So lots of different things seem as though they're going to start coming to a head pretty soon. So
yeah, and we've seen like some of us in the comic books, we saw that in some level or some way, uh, the staff and the connection to the stars and all of that drove Ted a little crazy. Ted Knight a little crazy. So it'll be interested to see how they tie that in with what's going on with Sylvester, or if they do. But there's definitely something. I think the fact that they brought up, they had the original Dr. Midnight, guy kind of mention that maybe the staff is what brought you back to life, or your connection to it. It'll be very interesting to see if that was, I don't think that was for nothing. If
right,
that somehow plays into this.
right. Um, I think that's all. It's all the TV shows. I think no movies or anything. So I guess we're out of the comics. So what did you? Let's see what Mark has to say. I think we're gonna get a two-story arc season. This murder is just the first storyline. Dr. Bones and Obsidian got to be next. Yeah, they have it. They really kind of made a point to show him in the last episode of season one, and
Yeah.
then we haven't seen him at all since then. So I think he's the person on the other side of the cameras. I
I
think is
do.
going to
I
be
do
Dr.
too, for
Bones.
sure. They kind of want you to think it's the girl's dad, the Dragon King,
Right.
uh, in some capacity, but I don't think so. I think
Yeah.
you're right. I think that's Dr. Bones, and they've made mention of uh, of Jen. So that's Obsidian's sister. We know,
Mhm.
but made mention of her and how the Alan Scott's ring affected her physically. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, and I'm hoping I'd like to see Obsidian back and build that out
Right.
more. That would be
Yeah.
very cool.
Absolutely. All right. So, how many books did you read this week, Ryan?
5. Yeah,
5.
4
Ryan,
DC
Okay.
books and an indie.
I told I told Paul beforehand that Mark's probably going to be disappointed he had me come on here because I did not get to the comic shop this week, so I don't have any books. But I was just going to make up spoilers to anything you guys talked about.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
or
definitely do that.
or something like that.
Yeah. Hey, you
So, what do
might
you want?
write some better stuff than some of these writers out here.
I think it was Sabian who yanked up Starman and put him in the hospital.
Yep, I think so too.
Could be. Could be. What do you want to start with, Ryan? You pick the first book.
I mean, I hear y'all mentioning Obsidian. I'm assuming it's the same one that we saw in the Deadly Green this week. So
Here it
we can
is.
start there and kind of keep that hype train moving.
Hey, Pitt. Yeah.
It is. What do you think of it?
Well, this is the first and only Dark Crisis, tie-in book that I've read. And honestly, it impressed me more than the Dark Crisis book for this week. So I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. It is, it's written by Ram V and a couple of other people as well. The whole, um, Mark agrees. Yes, it is. Deadly Green was fire. It basically takes people into the darkness, and Obsidian is a huge part of that as well. Spoilers, every series not selling well. Iron Man, the writers finished. Well, starting over the issue one, jumping off point. Um, it basically takes us into the darkness, and we use Obsidian because of his connection to the dark. And we use Alan Scott and his ring because of its magical nature. And the two of them combine, and we get a group that goes basically into the darkness. We get Raven, we get both Swamp Things because there's two. We get um, uh, Jonathan Kent
Jonathan Kent,
and
Superman,
Constantine
Constantine.
go into the darkness to try to stop the darkness from doing whatever evil plans it has. Um, and there is a huge reveal at one point. What they need to do in order to stop the darkness is um, talking about fusion superheroes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Swamp Thing and Jonathan Kent fused together into a single super Swamp Thing. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, which was really cool. Those two characters together. I love the way that they showed Swamp Thing's vision. Yeah, that page exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
No, go
yeah, it
ahead.
was just like really cool the way that they showed the way that Swamp Thing sees things. They express like how John Kent sees things, and they really like what I really liked about this issue was how into each character they got. I didn't even hear you mention, but Raven was like a huge part of this, and it was really cool. Like her whole story is basically like they took her because of her kindred to the darkness,
Mm-hmm.
but they like really gave her a lot of shine in this story and let her be a leader. And I thought it was really cool the way that they played with her as a character and had her operate and lead Superman and Swamp Thing when they couldn't be led.
Right. Um, Basically, as soon as they go into the darkness starts to take over them. You start to see the tendrils on the back of Jonathan Kent and everything, and that's when, to your point, Ryan is Ravens, and basically says, "I live with this every day. I'm just, I'm a step away from the darkness every moment of my life, basically." You know,
Yeah.
um,
Well, my
so
favorite line in that is she says, "The darkness is closer to my heart than my next breath."
right,
Like, whew,
yep,
man, that's intense
Damn.
living there.
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Um, and then the Swamp Thing and Superman, fused together. Basically,
Fusion,
they
ha!
exactly they find this column of darkness and they go into it and they pull out of this column one of Pariah's original machines that caused the original crisis. The back in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. And so they take that and they take it back to the Dark Crisis um, story proper. Um, but it was just so well done. There's a discussion that Constantine has with the physical manifestation of the darkness that is really
He
kind
likes
of that whole
David Bowie
scene.
too.
Exactly, he likes David Bowie too. So there's a scene there that is really well done. Um, there's a Justice League Dark that is in it as well. So it really kind of um, hits all the boxes because they're also, I'm sure that we will see Justice League Dark again, obviously, as we move into the Lazarus Planet and everything there, because, that's going to be an important part of obviously all the magic and everything. So, yeah, I thought it was really well done. I enjoyed it. I mean, I think probably this one shot and the Dark Crisis #5 to me were the two strongest issues that have come out. I think so far in the Dark Crisis saga. What did you think of the Dark Crisis proper book?
Um, I enjoyed it. Like the thing, like I really like the Justice League stuff, especially the Superman scene. I liked it. Like we kind of hit like the climactic, all is lost moment with this issue. And the thing about the Titans stuff is like it pulled at some good heartstrings, and like Nightwing's rallying cry was that was kind of the highlight of the fight, and then the fight just felt really empty. Like we got to do this. This is the battle plan, and then they go into the fight, and it's pretty much all over as soon as it starts. And I was like, you kind of like built us up to this giant fight that was about to go down, and then just was like kind of sidestepped it with Pariah coming back. But there was a lot of good heartstring stuff with the Titans before that like fight moment, and then all the stuff with the Justice League was pretty good. I didn't really get was okay. So the Batman Flash scene, was that coming out of one of the tie-ins or something?
Yeah, they're doing. It's funny because they haven't gotten to that one yet. Batman is the last of those tie-ins that they
Mm,
have. It doesn't come out till next month, but they basically go to the worlds without a Justice League, where each Justice League member is in their own. Pariah has basically sent them to their own idyllic world.
hmm
Um, and he's using that energy of them in their world and being peaceful and hopeful. He's using that to power his machine.
Yeah,
Um, so there's some
yeah,
great moments in this issue. I thought, to your point though about the Titans, is one of the best moments I thought is when Black Adam is talking to them and he's basically saying, you guys are all sidekicks.
yeah,
You'll never be the Justice League.
yeah. You're not the
And
Justice League.
yeah, and Dick Grayson just kind of turns back and says to him, we never were. We're the
Yeah,
Titans. And I think that goes to service that I think there was, Dick Grayson isn't out to replace the Justice League, and neither is Joshua Williamson.
yeah.
They're not out to do that. They're out to show the legacy of the Justice League, and the legacy doesn't mean that you need to form a new Justice League. It basically is,
Well,
they're
they
the
are the
Titans. They
legacy,
know they're the
right?
Titans.
If the
Yeah.
Justice League did their job and trained their sidekicks to like become their own people and do just as good of a job, but in their own way, then that is the legacy more so than like just becoming another Justice League.
Right. It's what they represent, and
Yeah,
what they stand for is passed down, and you don't. It's not a replacement. It's a continuing to carry that on.
yeah. Yeah, and there was a really
Yeah.
good through line with
Yep.
all that, with like all the kids from Titans Academy coming in and being like, "No, that was our home too. Like, we're in for this fight, you know. And so like you kind of see
Yep.
the sidekick characters like getting their own sidekicks in a sense of like now we're building a legacy as well. Like there was a whole like generational move there that was really cool. And then I like, you know, that rally cry, just like, yeah, we're not the Justice League. We never have been. We're the Titans. You know, I thought that was a great rally cry, but then like you go into the fight and it's just kind of like, whatever. Who cares about this part of it?
Yep. And there's also as Barry is moving through the different worlds, collecting the Justice League members, they get basically back to Superman, and you know Superman has finally realized that everything that um, he has been doing on his world, he finally realizes is not real, and he says that he's become lucid, and he says, you know, one of the things that will help them get back to Earth Zero is the fact that you know that's where their friends are, and so it's that connection again to other people that helps all of these Justice League members get back to Earth Zero, just in time for Pariah at the end of the issue to basically have every single major villain you could probably think of already there and
With the
claiming
chains.
exactly with a change. You know, from Spectre to Eclipso to Necron to you know you name it,
Dark
Doomsday,
side.
Darkseid.
Yeah,
You know, they're all
Doomsday.
there,
Doomsday.
right? So I think the last two issues are just going to be some knockdown, drag out fights, um, and I for one cannot wait. So
Yeah. It kind of
yeah,
lines some things up too, you know, with Superman, the way that he was all calm and stuff, and like, I didn't read any of the tie-ins other than I did read like the Superman one, you know, and at the end of his story, he's like, I didn't miss it, you know, I got to see it, and like his reaction to all of it was much different than everybody else's from what I've
right.
heard, and so that kind of lines things up, you know, like Superman is extremely intelligent. He figured this out pretty quick, and he's like, all right, I'm going to live in the dream until we get to the solution and kind of like enjoy and embellish everything that's going on because I know it's not real. And then once they show up, like, then it's go time, you know. And he was just like, they showed up and he's like, yeah, you can put the lasso of truth down. Like, I got this, you know. Just,
Exactly. Right. Yep. Um, Not near mint. I don't know about you all, but hearing Fall of X, Sins of Symbiotes, all the Superman family gets new uniforms. I think I'm going to start withdrawing from new books almost altogether going into 2023. Oh, I hope not. I hope you don't. Give them a try anyway. If you don't like what they're doing, that's you know that's one thing. But um, hopefully you give them a try. I am really excited for where Superman is going personally.
yeah,
So
same
hopefully,
here.
yeah.
I think
Mark,
Superman and like the Super Family is about to show out in 2023.
yeah.
Yep.
I'm not missing the new Superman era. Superman has been hot since January 2021. I could care less about the Marvel book.
Yeah.
As soon as John Clark started working on getting out, yep, phenomenal. I agree. Yep. Okay. So what else did you read?
Um, well, I read Gotham City Year One.
I did too. I really liked that. Um, GD Year
Yep.
One. It sets up a nice mystery. I think you know for one thing, um, it pays tribute to. It goes way back to at this time when Superman first came on the scene. Slam Bradley is a character that goes back to Action Comics #1. Um, so
Detective, isn't it?
yeah. So he's one of the main characters, um, and it goes back to basically Bruce's grandparents. Um, and basically the story is um, Bruce's grandparents' daughter, which I guess would be his great aunt, which would be his aunt, I think, right? Bruce's
Yeah.
aunt,
It would be his. Yeah, because that's his dad's sister, right? That
right?
they're
Right.
referring
So
to, right?
it would be his aunt. As a little baby, has been kidnapped, and Slam Bradley, who runs a PI uh, uh, investigation business, basically has this woman come in and drop off a letter to him, says he needs to go and deliver it to the Waynes, and takes $100 from him, and he goes and delivers it, and it's basically a note. And we find out what happened on the night that what is her name? Her name was Helen Wayne. So the night Helen was kidnapped, basically there was a note that was left in very poor English. This note, well, by the way,
Yeah.
but but at the bottom of the note there was a symbol of a bat. So and
Yeah.
inside this envelope are the next instructions, again in very poor English, and the symbol of a bat as well. And so the story seems as though it's going to be this mystery as to who kidnapped Helen Wayne and everything. But then we're also Helen is Bruce's grandma. Okay, um, so they must have been the great grandparents then. I guess I got that wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought it was like his great grandparents and then his grandma, right? That's who was taken, right?
Right. So you guys are right. I skipped a generation. I
Yeah, that's why I was like, well, I don't know where you're getting aunt because I thought it was like his great grandparents, and that would make that like his great or his grandma, you know?
right.
I haven't read it yet, so I was just guessing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
I was
we're
going
splitting
on
hairs here,
what
like
Paul was saying.
Bruce Wayne's family.
Yeah. No, you guys are absolutely right. I misread that. Um, anyway, at the end of the story, we find out there actually something is happening in real time as well in the present day, and basically someone is talking to Bruce as Batman, saying that basically everything he's about to tell him is going to change how he thinks about himself in Gotham City. So, um, so what did you think? What were your thoughts, Ryan?
um, so I really enjoyed it. I think like plot wise, it's like plot wise, it's very solid. It's well crafted. The character interactions are really good. The artwork is phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. I love the way that it's like this noir thing that's like really leaning into like the shadow work and stuff. Um, so all that was really cool. I think the mystery is good. The story maybe like a little bit thin for me. I don't so much mind like the parallel story with with the modern day whatever's going on with Batman. Like it wouldn't bother me that Batman showed up at the end of the book. What annoyed me was the bat thing in the letter because it's like that's too much of a direct through line, like why is there a Batman symbol here? And full credit to Tom King. I'm sure like at some point like he's gonna make it just like completely make sense. I'm like, yeah, that was dumb. But it's just like I kind of wanted to go into this like, all right, we're gonna see Gotham City before Batman existed, before it was the Gotham City we know, and we're seeing how it became that Gotham City and like why do we, like why put anything Batman in here? We already know it's Gotham City, so it's kind of Batman tangential. And so then to like have the little thing in the letter every time, like twice in this first book, I'm like, okay, that's kind of annoying because like why? And so then once he shows up at the end on top of that, then I'm like, okay, this is kind of annoying. Like they can't even leave Batman out of this book. Like
Right.
everything in a DC book, a DC line has to have Batman somewhere. They could have done without him, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also wondering. I mean, because Scott Snyder did a lot of work on the history of Gotham City as well, in a lot of his comics. I'm wondering if the Court of Owls will show up somehow. Because they supposedly have been there since the founding you know, of Gotham City. Um, but I enjoyed the story. I like the setup piece so far. And to see where the whole kidnapping thing is going. I didn't even think about the parallels to the Lindbergh kidnapping. But that's an interesting observation that I didn't pick up on. So
I mean, the I thought it was great, like the way like she shows up and she's like, "Hey, I need you to deliver this letter to these people." Blah blah. Like all of that worked really good. And then whenever he shows up and they're just like, "Yeah, we've been waiting for you," and he's like,
yeah,
"Wait, what?" And then like you come to understand like they were told like he was gonna show up looking for his money. And so like he's there, kind of oblivious to why he's even there. And so that was like a really good play and a good twist. Very noir of them, but well done. Like I said, I think everything, all the fundamentals are like super solid. Like Tom King knows what he's doing as far as crafting all this. It's just like, why Batman? Like, why do we have to bring him into this too?
Right.
Yeah, that almost feels like I said, I haven't read it yet, but that almost feels like it's like, okay, now you're trying to be too clever.
Yeah.
No, let's not Shyamalan this thing or whatever.
Right. I've got this
know?
great twist. Now let me figure out a movie to put around it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes it feels like movies and books and things are done with that they have one good idea and then they have to build everything else to fit that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know Tom King talked about a little bit on his Substack that basically, they came, DC came to him, whatever editors on this, somebody he's worked with, came to him and was like, hey, we want to do like a Gotham City Year One thing. And so he came up with pretty much everything from that. Like, I need to tell an origin story of how Gotham became the Gotham that could create Batman, and so that's kind of where the inception of the whole story came from. So, so far, so good.
Good point, Nine Earman. We wouldn't have known what was in the box in the movie 7.
But we don't know what was in the briefcase in
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction, and that doesn't hurt that in any
It was
way.
just very shiny, whatever it was. Very reflective.
Yeah.
Or it was a light bulb.
All right, your next comic there, Mr. Ryan.
Well, did you read Batman?
I did.
I did not read it, but I was very interested in hearing about it. See where it went after the last one.
Basically, where it goes is Failsafe is unstoppable. They managed to get Superman. Tim Drake manages to get him to the Fortress of Solitude because he gets shot by a kryptonite, some sort of kryptonite weapon, which of course, because that's what he would have planned. Batman does not tell anyone, including Superman, that he's the one that programmed Failsafe. Batman ends up in Atlantis with Aquaman recuperating because he also has been almost killed by Failsafe, and Failsafe has basically taken over the city. So, although I liked the issue, I'm getting a little bit tired of all of Gotham City falling time after time after time after time, which it seems like that's what's been happening in the Batman books. Like the whole city is now under under Failsafe's control now, and so Batman has to come back in to retake the city, just like he did with the Scarecrow, and just like he did with the Joker War, just like it's like it just seems like they're doing the same thing over and over and over again with little twists, but to me it's just kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's all about the city and all the citizens, and like why would they even deal with this anymore? It becomes so ridiculous at some point.
Right? Who would live there? They don't would pick up and move.
Yeah.
The artwork was great. I love Jorge Jimenez's art. I really do. But yeah, as much as I liked the story, it's just getting to me to seem they need some new ideas, I think. So
I feel like they do this. I mean, throughout history, they've done this over and over. It's like there's always some new unstoppable villain that it's Batman's fault has come on. They did. That's what Prometheus started out was. He had downloaded all of Batman's files into his brain. Then they had the Omax, and they were unstoppable because they were programmed off of Batman's, so forth. All of his countermeasures and so forth.
Funny you say that because to me, this is the Tower of Babel and No Man's Land put together.
Yeah.
The whole city is under somebody else's control, and it's by this robot. Or it could be OMAC, like you said. It could be the OMAC, or it could be Amazo, like Marcus said. So,
I mean, the answer to that question is just simply economics. How many people bought obviously Chip Zdarsky coming on to Batman sold extra copies, like no doubt. But how many extra copies on top of extra copies were sold because there's a new first appearance character?
Right.
That's why they didn't use Amazo or anybody else, because it just sells buttloads of copies. And I mean, we're getting new characters in Detective Comics, and like, who's buying extra copies to flip and sell because there's first appearances there?
Right.
But Failsafe was advertised, new character, brand new villain, Failsafe, like, and copies move because of it. So that's the unfortunate side of it.
Yep. Not here, man. Bruce had a secret that backfired. No, like the secret bomb on the moon, or the Tower of Babel protocols in the Justice League, or Zero-Ar, or the countless children he's killed or crippled. See, and that's the thing is, okay, you have almost all of those are in that issue, almost every single one. So it's been done before.
Yeah.
At least Ghostmaker is an interesting new addition. Is he though?
Yeah, not really. I was not into the Ghostmaker thing. That one burned out for me pretty quick.
But he will be in Batman Incorporated. He will be leading Batman Incorporated coming up very soon. So I think that it'll be a good opportunity for them to really flesh him out and make him different than some of the characters that they've had in the past, I think. So so that was Batman. Again, I still buy it because I like Chip Zdarsky and Jorge Jimenez, but to me, I'm hoping that he does something truly original coming up after this. So
yeah, maybe it's maybe Zdarsky's Batman is gonna be like those like TikTok and Reels videos where they're like, okay, this is for the guys. Okay, now this is for the guys that do this is for, okay, now that all the ladies are gone and everything, how do you iron clothes? That's what his Batman's going to be. It's just like running off all the people out chasing copies and stuff. And he's like, okay, now that the real fans are here, we're going to bring Amazo in. And Justice League, bro.
Okay. All right, so you had a couple more DC, you said, or?
I mean, I have another DC book, and then I have an indie book also.
Okay. What's your other DC book?
Monkey Prince.
Okay.
Have you been reading that one?
I have been, but I get some of my books I get once a month because I order them online, and I get like 35% off. And they get shipped once a month, so it's coming to me, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah. So you're all the way through 6, right? The last issue?
Yep.
Yeah, and then the hiatus. Yeah, so like the last issue felt really rushed, and like I felt like it wasn't really growing anymore. And so I was a little concerned with the hiatus and stuff. I was like, either they're taking their time to get this story together again, or it's about to like get really bad and tank, And this issue came along and really impressed me. I was surprised. It feels like, I don't know, maybe like the editor intervened and was like, yo, like we need to kind of like give this thing some direction or something. Maybe that's when they got the news that like he's gonna be a major character in this event. But in this issue, like they come in, the last one they went into the water and stuff, and they're going down to meet Aquaman. So this one starts out with them meeting Aquaman and Mira. Marcus like really has come into his own as the Monkey Prince. He actually like seems to understand his abilities a little bit better. He's starting to listen to Pigsy a little bit more, so he's actually like doing what he's supposed to do and pulls off some of his own games and stuff. He's like, oh yeah, I need like a pinky promise from Aquaman. Aquaman's like, what are you talking about? And so like he goes and he's trying to explain to him like, oh well, where I come from, we do this thing called a pinky promise. He's like, I know what a pinky promise is. I just don't understand why you want to do it. And so like he goes ahead and does it, and right, like he's the Monkey Prince is like handcuffed, and so whenever he does it, the Monkey Prince's hand comes off, and so he's able to get out of the handcuffs, and then his hands like going around the throne room like slapping people and stuff, and he like gets his hand back then, and him and Pigsy escape, and Pigsy's like, it's something from where you come from, where he's like, yeah, the playgrounds of Gotham City. Come on, man. Like, okay, finally this character is like getting a grip on himself, because I mean, that's his thing, right? Like, he's a trickster god of sorts, and so like he has fun with things, but also like he's extremely powerful. And so then they like get into like they go down to Dragon Town or whatever, where the spear, the power pole was growing and stuff. So they go down there and they try to take that on, and the Monkey Prince once again like gets kind of serious and does some like cool things. And then Aquaman shows up, and he has a falling out, and so we get like a nice little fight with Black Manta there, and Aquaman gets to flex a little bit. And then the Monkey Prince, his parents are there, and they're in danger, and they're underwater. So then he's like saving them, and so then Aquaman's like, "Oh, you're a bad guy," And so now we got like this mixed identity sort of thing going on. It was a much better issue than the last one for sure, and it feels like he's really coming into his own. So I enjoyed this issue. I think they're really building him into a character that can come into a more serious event and actually be worthy of being there, and not just like some weird goofball.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I really enjoyed the issues that he read so far, and they already have tied it into, like, because I know like Batman and Robin appeared in some of the earlier
Mm-hmm.
issues, so they've already tied it to the bigger DCU. And you mentioned before that he's pretty prominent in some of the promotional materials for the Lazarus Planet. So I'm really looking forward to see what they do with that. So
Yeah, yeah, he was enjoyable in this issue. I really enjoyed him.
good, good.
It feels like, like the Monkey Prince is like a trickster god, super goofy, and then Marcus is like this kid that's kind of like timid and scared of the world and not really sure of his place in it. And so when he transforms into the Monkey Prince, like, you really see that they figured out how to kind of balance those two and create this character that is fun and goofy, but also is still kind of insecure and like cautious, And so this character is really coming together now.
Right. Yeah, and I've really enjoyed the interaction between the Monkey Prince and Pigsy. That's that the right. That's um, the dialogue that they have. Is just um, Jean. I'm gonna pronounce this Jean Luen
Gene Luen
Yang.
Yang. Yeah.
Yeah. He really writes some pretty sharp dialogue. I think he does really well. I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good stuff. Yeah. This issue
Mm.
to me was a standout. I really liked like the first 4 or 5 issues, and then the sixth one just felt really rushed and weird. Like Black Manta just like shows up with a giant hermit crab, like roaming the city, destroying stuff, and like it was real cartoony. And then this one just like came back really strong.
Good. Can't wait to get my copy. Um, I'm supposed to either. Oh yeah, John, you haven't gotten it, but
Oh, is that the
this is
Black
the
Adam book?
last. Yeah, the last of the Black Adam specials. Um, the Justice Society Files, Doctor Fate #1. Um, to me, that cover is just amazing by Kari
Amazing.
Andrews.
It's so
Uh,
fantastic.
Yeah.
yeah, it's just incredible. Um, I had the option of purchasing that one or the photo one, and I went with the photo one. Lots of some of the other ones, but with this one, I definitely went with that one because it was much better. But um, basically, um, you go through him having to fight a demon. He has some help from some kids. I'm not going to do it justice because I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't actually seen it. But basically, at the end of the issue, you basically have the formation of the Justice Society again, um, right in line for where we think we'll see them come in the Black Adam movie. So it lines up everything perfectly because the last shot is basically he also has a vision in this book of Black Adam and then the four of them basically just four from the Justice Society basically laying unconscious, dead, whatever you want to say, of the future. So we'll see how that works out as well. I obviously don't think they're going to kill the Justice Society in this movie, but it was done really well. It showed that he, as much as, um, uh, uh, yes, they were, weren't they? He is really a savage. He basically takes no prisoners to the point where he has to be convinced at the end, not basically to do something bad to a little kid. Um, he's like, the little kid helps him by throwing his mask to him. Um, um, exactly. To make for themselves. Um, and so he's just gonna, basically leave them with their arms. And the little kid's like, "Hey, remember, I just saved you. You should be helping me." And that's when he basically then thinks about it twice and says, "Okay, yeah, you did good. I need to help you." So, um, yeah, and I think again, it's the human with Naboo kind of fighting, for which one is going to be in control at any one time. But just an incredible book. To Mark's point, all four of them have been really good, and this one leaves off right where we should see them in the movie. So, and that's only 2 weeks away. So, and then the other one that I read, and I don't know if Ryan, if this is, but this was Junkyard Joe. Um, This is by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Um, it is part of his Mad Ghost. Did you read Junkyard Joe by any chance?
I did not. I didn't even read Geiger, so this wasn't
Okay.
on my list.
Okay. This is from Jeff Johns' Mad Ghost company that like produces Stargirl, and he's doing a whole bunch of comics as part of and having them published by Image. Um, this basically is set in the Vietnam War. Um, you get introduced to the junkyard, which is the junkyard dogs, which is a platoon in Vietnam, and they end up getting a new person assigned to the unit who doesn't speak, he doesn't say anything. When he's asked a question, he doesn't reply, and then basically, when an attack comes from the Viet Cong, he basically is shown to be a robot, and that's Junkyard Joe basically. And so they're not really sure what to do with him. What should we do? Should we try to get rid of him? What should we do? And they finally decide to keep him around because he, as part of when they were attacked by the Viet Cong, he had some, really amazing shots, like sharpshooting shots. And then how he ended up was he looks like he ended up like having an explosion that he helped save the rest of the platoon from, and that blew away all of the skin and everything that was on him. And so he was shown to be a robot. He does play poker. Um, so he plays poker and he wins cigarettes and chocolate. And then like, I don't really know what a robot needs with cigarettes and chocolate, but whatever. Um, and then he basically ends up going into this firefight with some more Viet Cong, and he ends up his transmissions stop, and we then flash to a control center in Washington, and we find out that basically the transmission stopped because um, Junkyard Joe has determined that there was no way to win the war. And so at that point, we then see Richard Nixon, who says, "Okay, then let's sue for peace." So he basically is saying that Junkyard Joe was the one who convinced Richard Nixon to sue for peace and ended the Vietnam War, which was kind of a neat little twist there.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of the end of the story. Although it does say that we will find out whatever happened next to Junkyard Joe. So, um, and then the panels of each soldier having their time talking to him was really cool. Yep, he's basically the T-80, T-800 after John Connor flips his learning switch. And then the other thing I really enjoyed had nothing to do with the story, but there in the back, each of the creators was asked to honor someone from the military that they know, whether it be somebody in their family, a close friend, whatever it happens to be. Um, and I also thought what was kind of nice is that Mad Ghost is actually donating. If you buy there is a black and white sketch cover to this. If you buy the black and white sketch cover, they're going to donate all the proceeds to two to do veteran groups, one in the United States, one in Great Britain. And what they're doing too is, on top of that, for everyone that is sold, Mad Ghost is going to put in another $2 for each issue that's sold to help make up for the cost, so that the entire cost of that particular issue will then be donated to one of those groups. So kind of a neat thing to do. So
That's very cool.
Joe determined it was runnable after an innocent child was killed. Wasn't worth the fight. Yep. So yeah, really great story. Jeff Johns and the art by Gary Frank. Gary Frank is, one of the premier artists. His line work is just so detailed. That's what I really like about him. He's so detailed on his art, that it just knocks it out of the park every time. So, what was your indie that you read this week, Ryan?
So I read Kaya, Kaya. It's
Okay.
it's an image book by Wes Craig, who did Rick Remender's Deadly Class. So that's kind of like his big claim to fame. I never read it, so it didn't really make a difference to me. What got me is it's an action adventure title, and that's kind of what I love is action adventure stuff. And so I picked it up on that basis alone, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Like this first issue was just really cool. The artwork tells pretty much the whole story, and then a lot of the dialogue is used to just kind of like embellish the character interactions and also like build out the world beyond what it is. So it's like, I think it's a 32-page book. I think it was like a little bit oversized for a first issue. So it was like 20 to 30 pages or whatever. But like the amount of world building that's done is just like impressive. And so essentially what you have is it starts with this young girl and her younger brother, and they're like basically walking through the desert. He's complaining he's hungry. She's like, look, just shut up. Like we have to do what we're doing. But if we get over this ridge, there's a village there. We'll be able to like trade for food and water and stuff. And he's like, but what are we going to trade? We don't have any money. We don't have anything of value. She's like, we're going to have to trade your scrolls with the golden rings that holds them together or whatever. And he's like, well, we could trade your knife, blah, blah, blah. So they come over the top of this hill. Boom. There's like a village down here in the desert, but it is empty. There's no people in it. It looks like it's been run down and abandoned ghost town style. So they go down there, and then they hear basically the paws of like something coming, and so they go and hide, and it's like these guys, they look kind of like lizard people, and they're riding like other lizard creatures, sort of like dinosaur raptor style. And so ultimately this results in a little scuffle. The brother gets kind of kidnapped or whatever, I guess. But then like this other faction, so like all of these like lizard people are kind of yellowish tinted. These green ones come up. They're like, no, like we know this girl. This is Kaya. Like, hold off on this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so that's when the story like really like slows down and starts to like explain everything. And essentially you're in a world where, and like it's revealed as they like get into the scuffle with these yellow these yellow lizard people. Kaya has like this like robotic arm, and she can kind of like exude like electricity through it and stuff, but essentially she's got like a robot arm. So then these other people come and kind of make peace with everybody, and so then they're kind of sitting down and like sharing food and stuff. And so what you find out is this is a world that's kind of like in between like two eras. Like Kaya and her brother Jen, they are basically the last two humans alive, because humans were slowly eradicated from the planet until there was basically the village they lived in left, and it was just recently destroyed. And they have this prophecy that this Jen character, her little brother, he is going to become a prince that like basically saves the planet and revives humanity and makes everything harmonious again, but he has to get to a certain place. And so their village was basically ransacked and destroyed, and all of their family and everything is dead. And so she has taken up the journey of getting him where he needs to be in order to save humanity. And the character that like stopped the other one, like basically these yellow and green lizards, like they're kind of opposing factions of the same species, but they've learned to work together because there's this bigger bad, the one that wiped out that village. They've built a wall that is pretty much killing off everything on this side of the wall. And so these like the green one, like he had been in her village at some point in the past and kind of came to know her and her family, and so that's how he recognized her and her brother and was able to save them. And so you find out the scrolls that Jen is carrying, like these are the last remnants of like human history and knowledge, and so that's why they're so valuable. They have like these golden rings that hold them rolled up, you know. And then she has like this sword knife thing, you know, but it's like very like embezzled and stuff, you know. There's all these like diamonds and jewels and stuff, and it looks very nice. And it's basically like the last piece of human art. And so they're trying to preserve these things as they adventure through the world and like try to get him where he needs to go in order to fulfill this prophecy. And then at the same time, like the lizard people that they meet, well, they're hunters, so they're out hunting. And whenever he mentions what they're hunting, she's like, "Are you out of your mind?" And so he's explaining whenever this other group like put up this wall, it's basically dammed off all resources, and so everything is dying off. So all of the game that they hunted before to survive on is pretty much dead at this point. And so they're having to go after like the woolly mammoths that are going to kill everybody when you go try to hunt one of these things. They're having to figure out ways to hunt this. And he's like, you got to come help us, because if we can get one, we can get to this trading post that we know of, one of the few that still exist. We can get there and we can trade that for your ability to get through the wall and get to the north and stuff. And like all of that's in 30 pages, right? Like
Wow.
it's a really good book. Like that was such a solid setup for a series. I'm excited to see where it goes as they continue to adventure through this world.
Now, who publishes that?
It's published by Image.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
nice.
called Kaya, Kaya.
I'll have to see if I can find that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it sounds really interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
The art is like very dynamic. You know, like I said, like it seems like he pretty much like told the whole story through the art, and then he's like, okay, well now I can like add dialogue and just like fill out so many other things. And
Mm,
so yeah, it's just like packed. But yeah, the artwork very dynamic. The action's great. The character acting is really good. There's a lot of like great little moments here and there that really bring it all together.
nice, nice. Um, did you read anything else? Or was that it?
That's the last book I read.
Okay. Me too. So I think I'm done. You guys have anything else? Ryan, what do you got coming up on your channel? You've been pumping out these videos now. You're like,
Yeah, let's see. So today, this morning, I had my the books I'm picking up this week that I'm going to be reading. So definitely check that out. I think it's like 5 or 6 books. Definitely check that out because that's got all the books that are coming out that I'm going to be reading. And there's a lot of good stuff coming out this week. So I'm excited for that. The day before, I had a video come out that's about Static Beyond and where we're at with Static. And I even talk about the history of these two characters meeting in 2004. So there's some great stuff in that video. Tuesday, I'll have a video dropping that actually talks about this Icon versus Hardware fight. And in that, I even go through and explain who these characters are, what is fundamentally what fundamentally makes this an interesting fight, and like why these characters would be so combative with each other. And then I even go through the setup, what we already have been through with the milestones in history that came out in July that set all of this up. So if you just heard about this Icon versus Hardware fight, like this video is going to give you everything you need to know to pick up this book on February the 14th and get into it.
nice, excellent. Brother John, what do you got coming up?
I don't have a whole lot of scheduled kind of stuff. I just kind of wing it when things come along, especially this time of year when things are so busy with everything else. I had a video I just posted on a nice AOK I got from Chip Getler because, that's how that guy is. Um, I'm putting
Absolutely.
together, I don't have a whole lot, but I'm putting together a video for the Bearded and Coles cover challenge this month. They're kind of looking at spooky books in honor of Halloween.
Okay.
So I'm trying to put together something for that. I'm working on something to kind of highlight some different channels from the CBC Awards. The other channels that are in the same category with me. There's some in that unknown category. There's some great folks in there doing some really great stuff. They work way harder than I do. So want to do something to kind of highlight them and maybe get some other people looking at them. And then that's about it. Wednesday night, since I'm filling in for Mark, Wednesday night, be back here for the 1,500 subscriber giveaway celebration that Mark's doing. Hopefully, I'll win some stuff. And then I'll do a video on that.
Mark missed his chance to join the chat from the car with proper position. He could have, like Ryan and Mark. Same car. Yeah, and Mark looks like if he's not already, he may soon be at 1,700.
Yeah, he's that Isom video, that Isom review kicked him over the edge, man.
Right.
Yep.
Maybe there's something to this whole negativity thing.
Yeah, he was on the pulse.
And for me, I have tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, I'll have the latest DC Comics Dark Crisis deep dive with Mark. We'll take a look at Dark Crisis, The Deadly Green, and Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths issue number 5. And then a week from Wednesday, we should have our next episode of Guess That Key. Should be back as well.
Nice.
So thank you to everyone who's in the chat who joined us. Thank you, Ryan and Brother John, as always. And I guess there's just one more thing to do, and that is to say that I am not Mark, but we are Legion.
Well done.